I met Melissa at the University of Virginia in 1996. Her reputation preceded her even then. She studies things that matter, and she is an effective advocate for people who need advocacy within our legal system. I remember watching her on MSNBC while I was going through IVF, that she was fighting a battle that was going to help make it possible for me to create my family. I mean, on a personal level, this is my friend, but she also is out there making it possible for my family to exist. She looks at spaces where women should be and either encourages women to go there or will step in herself. She's making sure that female voices are heard. She is someone who has not only blazed a professional path for herself and elevated the voices of women who have helped her do so, but also is someone who makes it easier for others to walk the path behind her or to blaze their own.
Our dean was found by the university to have violated the university's sexual harassment policy. And so there was a search for an interim dean, and Melissa was just a natural choice. She took decisive action to address some of the structural issues that were festering. Melissa is a visionary. She saw that this was a time and an opportunity for her to address some longstanding issues. Melissa has not been afraid to say the quiet part out loud. She has not pushed people away, but she has brought them into a conversation and has brought the room along. And I think that has opened doors for women in the profession. And to be in her presence is to feel that the world has expanded, even as in this moment, so much of it seems to be collapsing around her ears.
I was a colleague of Melissa's at UC Berkeley for the first 7-8 years of my career. She was a mentor to every junior faculty member at Berkeley during her time there. She's able to really connect with people and where they are and what they're experiencing. She has put a particular emphasis on really supporting scholars of color and women. She's not willing to accept conventions. I think that just having her as such a visible public intellectual has been critical in terms of who's following in her footsteps. We haven't seen all that many Black women as major, important sort of intellectual contributors. They used to be sort of the domain of white male academics. And now you see Melissa being in that role, and then you see her also before congresspersons. It just provides such an inspiration for other people of color, other women, that we could be at the forefront of leading the charge for causes that we are fighting for and arguing for and putting forth in our scholarship. Melissa is kind of the ultimate example of that.
I met Melissa when I was a third-year student at NYU Law. I took her constitutional law class, and truly the class changed the course of my legal career. Melissa is an absolutely path-breaking scholar in reproductive rights, in family law, in gender in the law. Melissa embodies what it means to be a modern academic. You know, she isn't just sitting in an ivory tower in a dusty library somewhere. One of the things that she has done a lot is testify. And so we saw her testify at the Brett Kavanaugh hearings. To see a Black woman speaking truth to power in that way, I think is just more important than any of us can understand in this moment right now. It's been because of her that I've been unafraid to take the next leap, because I see her example.
I'm just going to say I feel somewhat relieved that some of the more compromising photographs were not used in that, so thank you. Thank you so much to the ABA's Commission on Women in the Profession and the Margaret Brent Award Selection Committee for this tremendous honor. And a very special thank you to Chanel Torres and Rhonda Davis, who have just been indefatigable in getting all of this together, convening us, and making sure that we were all here today and that this ran so smoothly. We very much appreciate all of your hard work. And I'm especially grateful to the American Constitution Society, who nominated me, and in particular, our leader, Russ Feingold, the former senator from Wisconsin, who's been such an extraordinary supporter of mine and such a powerful voice for democracy at times when such voices are urgently, urgently needed. I first attended this event back in 2000 when I was a 1L law student, and Sandra Day O'Connor was one of the honorees, but also floating around in that very impressive milieu were other people that I knew, including my own law professor, Judith Resnick, Irma Hill Kay, the first woman to be the dean at the University of California at Berkeley, who later became my colleague, Sheila Birnbaum, who I now work with at the Birnbaum Women's Leadership Network at NYU. And then there were other women who have been part of this tremendous sorority with whom I have had the pleasure and honor of working. Linda Klein, Wendy Sheba, Judge Bernice Donald. It is truly the honor of my professional life to join you in this phenomenal sisterhood, and more importantly, to do so in the company of these extraordinary women. So thank you so much. My friend warned me that when I did this, I had to make sure that I did not have a Hillary Swank at the 2000s Oscars moment. So let me just take this moment to thank emphatically and publicly my husband, Joshua Hill, for his unwavering support. My husband, Josh, is a litigator. We met on the first day of law school. He has his own demanding, high-profile practice. And so ours is truly a two-lawyer marriage, which probably explains why our children continue to negotiate screen time. But over the years, it also means that we've each had to make sacrifices where we've stood back in our careers so that the other might advance. And so, Josh, today, I want to thank you for the sacrifices that you've made on my behalf, not the least of which has been taking the bar in 3 different jurisdictions, and for helping me model for our children, Joshua and Eleanor, the joys and the challenges of working toward a true partnership of equals. And to Eleanor and Joshie, my children, I thank you for your forbearance. I know from experience that it's not easy to have a Jamaican mother, so although I sympathize with you, I am unbowed, and it will continue. I'm also joined today by my former student and dear friend, Caitlin Malott, who has just joined the tenure track as a junior professor at Arizona State's Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law. And my friendship with Caitlin reminds me that mentorship is both an act of service to the next generation, but also its own reward to the individual. And I hope that is something we can all remember as we cultivate the next generation of leaders within our profession. Also with me is my cousin, Tanya Putty, who for my entire life has been like a sister to me, and who for the last 20 years has very heroically and selflessly helped me care for my aging mother when I was often on the other side of the country and couldn't be there in close proximity. I lost my mother in April, but I could not accept this award without acknowledging the tremendous sacrifices that she made for me, sacrifices that are honestly too numerous to recount here. But let me just say that so much of the success of the women in our profession, whether we wish to acknowledge it or not, depends on the heroism of other women who often labor behind the scenes. The women who help us provide care for our children, for our aging parents, who help us manage the push and pull of busy households. Our profession, and indeed our nation's economy, is literally scaffolded by the often unseen and unaccounted for labor of these women. And at a time when policymakers are actively debating whether caregiving is in fact part of infrastructure, I can say emphatically that it is, and that we all deserve better than a patchwork system that depends on other women's unpaid or underpaid labor. And this brings me to the work of this section. In May, I was dreading my first Mother's Day without my mother and my children in what can only be described as an act of selfless altruism, decided that the best thing to cheer me up would be to spend Mother's Day at Disney World. I had grown up in Florida, so I knew my way around the place, and I insisted that we visit one of my favorite attractions from childhood, the Hall of Presidents. Big nerd. It had been almost 40 years since I'd last sat in the Hall of Presidents, but I can say it was relatively unchanged. To be sure, there had been some new additions to the presidents that were featured, some more reputable than others, some with fewer indictments than others. But on the whole, it was the same as it had ever been. All of the presidents were men, and a startling number of them, indeed a majority of them, had been trained as lawyers. Let that sink in for a minute. These 46 men, of that 46, a majority of them were not just leaders, they were also lawyers. And with that realization came a moment of profound clarity. The work that we are doing in law schools, the work that the Birnbaum Women's Leadership Network is doing at NYU, and the work that the ABA's Commission on Women is doing here for our profession is not simply about making the legal profession a more hospitable place for women. It is about changing what it means to be a leader in the law, what it means to be a leader in this profession. And that work is vitally important because when you transform the legal profession and what it means to be a leader in the law, ultimately, you are also changing what it means to be a leader in this country. And so our work is not just about the legal profession. It is about living up to the promise and ambitions of this country. And so I thank you for this recognition of the work that I have done and the work I will continue to do to advance this shared goal and purpose. And I look forward to working with all of you in the years ahead to make the legal profession and this country and its promise a more equitable place for everyone. Thank you.